as an astrologer, I feel like I'm constantly hearing astrology myths that completely confuse and mislead people and make them start to believe that astrology is complete BS. So in this video, I want to break down 3 astrology myths that are completely not true that could be making it so that you're not so into astrology. Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Isabelle, and today I'm talking about 3 common astrology myths that I hear, and I kind of just want to bring to light some more truth about these. Now, one quick note, astrology is all subjective. As much as we think that there are 12 zodiac signs that are very much black and white, these traits, not these traits, astrology is really up to the interpreter. So these are just 3 common things that I hear as an astrologer that I have questions about all the time that make people start to feel like astrology is not even accurate. And I want to break these down to remind people that, astrology, as much as it's subjective, in the end, it's about helping people. And at least it has been for me. And when you use the system accurately or accurate to you, it can be extremely beneficial for our self-development and help us gain insight into ourselves. So let's start off with the obvious one. Number 1 that I hear so often and set the record straight on it, which is Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is a planetary transit that happens 3 times a year and has become very, very popular to talk about. I hear people who are not even into astrology talking about Mercury retrograde because it seems like every blog, every news article, every person talks about how Mercury retrograde means your ex is going to come back, every email is going to be miswritten, every contract is going to have to be reviewed 10 more times, you're going to send texts you regret. And yes, that can be themes with Mercury retrograde, but let's get clear about what Mercury retrograde really is. Mercury is the planet of communication in astrology. It represents how we think and express. And so in the end, it's really the planet of the brain, is the simple way I like to put it. And so when Mercury goes retrograde, what that means is Mercury, from Earth's perspective, appears to be moving in reverse. Now, no planet actually moves in reverse. So what this means is a symbolic representation of things appearingly going backwards. But what does going backwards really mean? Really, what this means is that maybe we're reviewing things. We're letting our communication go back to old things. We're letting it go backwards in time, go backwards in space. And so really what Mercury retrograde is all about is a time for introspection, a time for self-reflection. And yes, it does mean that things may be moving backwards. We may have to revisit old themes. Hence why the idea of your ex coming back is so popular, because Mercury retrograde can bring communication back with old people. But this doesn't mean necessarily that it's always going to be destructive. It just means that it could feel like we are redoing the past, because Mercury is transiting appearingly space that it already has transited before. The way I like to think about Mercury retrograde is it's a time to revisit old conversations or old people or old places and make time to reflect on the self, to basically check in. If anything, Mercury retrograde should be seen extremely positive as something that we all need 3 times a year. Number 2 that I commonly hear is how astrology is all about predicting the future. This is the most common one I hear when I start to tell people who are not interested in astrology at all what I do. And they say, okay, so like, what do you do? What does that mean you do? Like, are you telling people, are you a fortune teller? And that is entirely not the case. And this is because oftentimes we associate astrology with horoscopes. And yes, we can use the stars to see what is going to happen in the future, to maybe interpret what may be possible. However, how I see it is more so that astrology is not necessarily about predicting the future. No horoscope is going to guarantee what's going to happen, but it can give us insight into what possible themes may be present in the end for us to reflect on what's happening in our lives. There's no way astrology can fully say exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. It can give us indication, but in the end, it's about the proactive approach, saying, given that this may be what's in the stars, given that this may be what's going to happen, given that this may be themes that are going to be coming up or are coming up for me, what do I do with that? In the end, astrology is not about predicting the future with 100% certainty. It's a tool that we can use to understand ourselves more deeply and maybe even give ourselves more compassion for where we are at in life. Number 3, astrology is not true or scientific. And this is one I want to cover, actually really arguing what may be a surprising end to this, because constantly what I hear as an astrologer is the question of, well, is astrology even real? And some people like to say yes, some people like to say no. Some people like to say we can prove it, some people like to say we can't. And in my personal opinion, astrology, for all we know, is complete BS. It could simply be that we see that our Mercury is in Leo and our Sun is in Aries, and we manifest it for ourselves. Because in the end, astrology is subjective, and we could probably see every single planetary placement in each person. And in the end, it doesn't really matter. And so when people come and ask me, is astrology real, quote unquote, I tell them, does it really matter? Because in the end, astrology is supposed to be a tool to help us understand ourselves. And like I said, give us more compassion for where we're at in lives. It's giving us a lens to look at ourselves when sometimes self-reflection and self-discovery can be overwhelming. And at least it has been for me. So is astrology real? Not necessarily. If you want to believe it's real, then absolutely do so. I personally don't necessarily think that because Mercury is retrograde is the reason that I want to text my ex. I also don't necessarily think I can blame it on my moon in Cancer. It's not about justifying where we are or justifying our unhealthy actions. It's giving us a tool of basically a basis to stand from. It's giving us somewhere to start. And that's what astrology has been for me. So I don't necessarily think astrology is necessarily true or real, but going and saying to myself, well, if this is true, how does it help me? If Mercury retrograde is meaning that my ex is texting me or that I'm having miscommunication with a friend of mine, what do I do with that? Does it remind me to be more patient? Is that the insight an astrologer would give me? Then perfect. That's all we need. So there you have it. Those are 3 common astrology myths that I hear busted. And I do want to make another quick note because I'm sure, especially on my last point, that I'm going to get a lot of haters coming out of the abyss to say how I should be arguing that astrology is real or isn't real, or that it's total BS, or just random trolls saying that they hate astrology in the first place. And to that I ask, why are you even watching this video? But I would love to hear those who are actually interested. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Was this insightful for you? And what other questions you have about astrology? Because like I said, in the end, astrology is just a tool for self-reflection. It's just supposed to be fun. And so I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What questions you have about astrology? What are your thoughts on this video? What are your thoughts on these 3 myths? Are these myths that you have personally heard? What's your take on them? Would love to hear thoughts in the comments below. If you want to dive deeper into astrology, be sure to check out all of my videos on my YouTube channel where I'm breaking down astrological placements, birth chart placements, and you can check out my astrology bundle in the link in the description below where you can get access to all of my astrology workbooks in one bundle. You can also book a reading if you want to dive deeper into your unique astrological birth chart, where in 1 hour we dive deep into any and everything about astrology, whether that's your chart or questions you have about astrology. Sky is the limit. We also cover your unique personality type combination. So this isn't just an astrology reading. It's an Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, numerology, everything reading. You can learn more about it in the link in the description below. And again, if that's not necessarily your thing and you just want to talk about astrology, then absolutely we can do so. And of course, check out my astrology course if you're wanting to become your own astrologer or become an astrologer for another person. I have an astrology course where I teach everything that I know about astrology in clear, cohesive fashion, because let me tell you, there's a lot of information out there and it seems to be any and everywhere, and it's overwhelming. And so if you feel that overwhelm, my astrology course just puts it all into one clear, cohesive fashion and makes it easy to understand astrology. At least that's my hope. So check it out in the link in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and stay tuned for more videos breaking down the stars. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Sincerely hope you enjoyed. Once again, my name's Isabelle, and from my heart to yours, namaste.